Welcome, everyone. This is Nichel Anderson. I'm your host for my podcast show, Nichel Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond. Thank you so much for joining me this week. This would be the 25th of March for episode 46 for my season 2 show from 2018 to 2019. And this particular episode is 46, entitled Hanee of Orion Enters the Domain of Tiamat. So it's a premium podcast. I will release short clip snippets of the short story. If you want to get the full short story, you can be a patron member. That link will be in the description box below. You can click that link and go to my Patreon page, and it can tell you information about it. This particular podcast started with my love of writing, and mostly of the short stories are focusing on MOLIAE. MOLIAE stands for Moments of Love in Ancient Egypt. It is a part of my book. It's from my book, Mitsrayim. And that advanced on to become into a stage play, into a webisode, a short film, and now this podcast timeline. And this podcast timeline is before the time of Princess Amelia, which the book Mitsrayim is focusing on the time of Princess Amelia, where she's on the scene and with the two kings, right? King Tiamat and King Daniel. Now, the production of MOLIAE currently is in the prep phase of preparing for the prestige return of MOLIAE stage play. Once those dates are announced, again, I will let everyone know. I know some people has been waiting for that, and it's planning to be it's more of a celebration, right? It's a long journey. I wrote that book back in 1995, actually. So that really started my pursuit to continue to write even more so. Even when I was a writer for the Harlem Renaissance, it was after writing the books. It was my first time writing a book, writing the script, which I didn't believe that I could do it, didn't understand it, and so forth. So it was really the seed, and then everything else from that, being a Harlem Renaissance columnist and writing those short stories and doing reviews on the Harlem Renaissance, and then doing articles and so forth, and then writing my book, which I have another podcast, Surviving Your Journey Toward Success, doing that. So all that kind of came from that first seed planet of Mitsrayim. This led to do other things as well in the theatrical sense of the arts. So at any rate, that really started it all. So the prestige return of MOLIAE stage play will be a celebration of that journey of myself and how I enjoy writing, telling stories, because it can inspire as well as entertain, and it's a wonderful position for me to be in now after all these years and time. So when I return back to stage, all of it's gonna roll into this big type bouquet of flowers, I like to say, bloom of evolving to that level of accomplishing the different things that I've done, and I can look back and see the different elements of learning, different ways to tell a story, from writing it to producing it on stage to filming it. So the stage play is a celebration also of my own journey, of my own life, and the challenges that I've had to overcome and go through. And so at any rate, when I do make that announcement, it's bigger than a stage play. It's more of a journey of my life and the people that I encountered during this journey, my purpose. So once I get those dates, and I do know some people do follow this podcast that's not in the United States or here in my city, but I am working on a way. I will do normally my bonus drop podcast where I just release a bonus. Most of the time it's on the day I release on Mondays, or it might be during the day of the week. And when I make that big announcement, I am will have a way that if you're not in the States, definitely if you're not in the city here where I'm at in the United States, that it's a way that you can tune in, that you can participate, to purchase the tickets, or how I'm working on it, that you can be able to attend the play. All right, so those details will be forthcoming in the future, as again, like I said, I'm still working on that prestige return of MOLIAE stage play. In the meantime, let's get started with this podcast, since I got that out the way. Now, I do have some apps right now. The app for this podcast is available at the Apple Store as well as Google Play. Please download that if you want to support the podcast that way. And it's a free download. Please share it if you like it. And if you've been following me for a while, please share it. for those people that like stories, okay? And support the podcast that way. So let's talk about this episode for the highlights. We're moving on, right? For the month of March, the return back to MOLIAE, which mostly my podcast focus on from taking a break in December. And we're focusing on Hanee. Okay, Hanee enters the domain of Tiamat. Tiamat is another name that we're calling Earth. By that time, it was named Tiamat. Okay, so he's from Orion and he's coming down, right? The last episode on him was last year, and that's where he went to his superiors. And he made it known that it's somebody else. If you go back and read that episode, there's somebody else that he feels. The name of that episode was titled, "In the Orion Skies, There's Always Others." And in that episode, he let it reveal, which I got to make sure that wasn't part of the reveal. You had to be a patron to get that. But nonetheless, he did made it known that he definitely would need to go to Tiamat to help Ecko that was initially sent there, and that he's familiar and told them that it was Nontu, but it's something else going on. And so that's where you see that decision was made, that his high rank is coming down to Tiamat. All right, so that's what we're going to focus on today, that he has arrived on Tiamat now, and he's looking for Ecko and then Nontu, of course. Of course, Ecko was the main leader last year. Something happened to him. Milan took care of that. You got to read the last episode, which is episode 29, I believe, in my season 1. The finale on that. It's going to be another finale this year. Of course, the last Monday in May is when I end my normal season. So you're going to have to check out on that. But yeah, so this week we're going to focus on Hanee as Nontu expand further. He's rebelling. He's rebelling because he wants to get the head leadership, right? So he got Ecko out the way. So last week, the recap for last week was episode 45, where it's entitled King Milan Intercedes One of the Two Brothers. So we learned about Sanel. Remember, Sanel didn't come up till later. Well, I think it was episode 8 or episode 6. Right? Teen was episode 6. And Sanel, if I just can look at my notes here. All right, so I found it. So it was in episode 6 where I introduced Sanel, Sanel. And he is actually, you don't learn he's the brother of Ateo, Ateo. That was in episode 35 in season 2, where that's where Ecko was told to go to. Hanee told him to go to the north. Evidently, Hanee, which is the top ranking senior secrecy, or at least I'm calling it those of Okino. So it's a secret level of council authority of superior Orions over, like I said, Ecko and so forth. And told him to go there to Ateo. That was in episode 36. But episode 6 itself was in season 1. That's Sanel. But both of them are brothers. So episode 6, check that out. That's in season 1. Episode 35, Ateo, was the one that is in that scene with Ecko. Episode 36 is where you found that episode with Hanee, where Hanee is talking to the superiors of their council members about what's going on. And the episode 29 is called Bountiful is Thee Amongst the Mitsrayim King. That was the finale last season, if you want to check that out to try to find out what happened to Ecko. But you got to kind of put it together. But you do get it's a good episode, and it's a YouTube video. So go to MOLIAE YouTube channel and you can watch the video for that episode 29, Bountiful is Thee Amongst the Mitsrayim King. Last episode is where we meet up with Sanel. He's been gone for a while, right? But he's been still doing bad things. And it definitely known that Milan know that they have a history together, and find out that pretty much in that episode. And Sanel is on the scene to meet up with evidently Nontu, right? Or some other players that's on the means to still go against Mitsrayim. So that's what happened last week. So let's go ahead and get started for this week. Let's begin. For this week of my season 2 podcast show, Nichel Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond. For this week, episode 46, entitled Hanee Enters the Domain of Tiamat. Opening scene. And the shadows of Kingo, the arrival of Hanee from Orion, shine for moments not measured in our time, but of theirs. Late in the Kingo ways of above Tiamat, we see many Orions of male species of soldiers hurriedly exiting the dome that arrived them to the last area known of where Ecko stationed whereabouts to the rest of the Sudan. After several of what seemed hundreds of soldiers, we see Hanee walking from the shadows dusk in the middle of them as the lead lieutenant pointed for him to come closer to the cave before them. Hanee, in his high rank of military attire of those of Hanee of Orion, with symbols of unknown metal material of his years in combat and of superior leadership, it shined throughout the rays of Kingo above them, as it was he that forego Ecko to lead forward on Tiamat. His closer relationship with his dear friend Ecko was his determination to find his whereabouts of what happened. In what seemed like moments afar, but of the now, his highest ranked lieutenant motioned him as the area was secured. The high attendant spoke. He allays the last moment of contact from Ecko. Hanee nodded. Where is the informant? Through the side bushes of many trees, we see Hanee guards rock up, a tribal member of Oteen. Teen was mentioned in episode 8. This unknown tribal member was someone that Oteen did not know of his decision to talk to the Orions. He stood upright as he was nervous amongst so many of them, not of thee, but he knew that if he could form a trusting alliance, he could be the leader in their region of power and override Oteen. Hanee, lieutenant, spoke of this tribal member. They said he is closest to Oteen that knows of Nontu and what happened to Ecko. Hanee nodded as he walked over a few feet to this tribal member of Oteen. Why should we trust you? The man pointed up and said with a slow grin, because I know where the river flows and seek an alliance with your strength. I can give you loyalty against Nontu that is rising in the south of the Sudan. Hanee pondered for a moment. Why should I trust a traitor against Oteen? The tribal man nodded. For I do not think Nontu has the power of you. He looked around at the many soldiers that stretched far and looked at Hanee markings and symbols of metals. You are of higher rank, of prestige and wealth in your Orion Skies? Hanee leaned his head back. What is your name that they call you? The tribal man shook his head. No need for my name until we form a solid ground of trust. Hanee smiled of his cleverness. Where is Nontu? As one of his highest guards opened a compartment from a chest filled with jewels. Tribal man beamed. He is on the coast of Zimbabwe. He knows another Orion is approaching, and Hanee interrupted. We know of him, and he is one of us for the first movement forward. To give you our first alliance for your knowledge, where does Oteen know of the whereabouts of Ecko? Did he survive from the cave within? Tribal member was hesitant. All of the main tribal leaders in the eastern part of Sudan is meeting up for the rulers of the Sudan Council of Rulers. Many do not know what happened, but fear Ecko and his others did not make it out. Hanee stared at the tribal member for a long moment before looking away. He nodded to his lieutenant to hand the tribal man one jewel. Then the tribal man spoke as he admired the jewel in his hand. There is someone deep in the region that has been speaking of sights from afar beyond that ridge. He pointed over there, the tribal man. As someone of them were found. Hanee quickly looked at him. Take us there. Meanwhile, In Mitsrayim, we are in the highest court of military authority room that is a part of the Royal Abbas Palace, where Heket, the highest ranked spy of the Queen Hagar, along with the 40 royal palace guards that discovered the impostors trying to enter the palace, stared down as they sat before them. The leader of the impostors continued not to look at Heket, as they were all tied up sitting in a wooden chair. Heket spoke with authority and force that shook the room. "What is your name, and why you are here? Of not of Egyptian law, of Mitsrayim, to enter the royal domain." The impostor. This concludes this week clip snippet for this episode. If you would like to listen to the full story, please visit my Patreon page. The information will be in the below description. Mostly every week, I will release only the clippet of the short story, and once you become a patron, you will have access to the full short story, what's going on next. And I do plan to release more director clip notes, as well as a bonus of releasing a story. Thank you again for joining my podcast this week. Of this podcast, Nichel Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond. So long.